Welcome to That Bible Guy. How can we start spiritual conversations? How can we start spiritual conversations? This is something all Christians should be, and no doubt are, most of my viewers are concerned with. How can I get into spiritual conversations with people? How can I help them see the Bible's truths? How can I help this person? It's the most natural thing in the world to do. However, I would like to just start by saying that not always everyone is wanting to necessarily share their faith. Some people may feel, even watching this today, as a Christian, you feel like I don't really want to get into them conversations with people. I've been there myself. Maybe because I felt like I had nothing to say. Maybe I felt like my own faith was weak. Or maybe I just had a time of testing and I just wasn't enthusiastic about sharing my faith. If this is where we're at, I would reach out and get some help or pray about this. Or also maybe just drop me a message and we can get a chat in some way online. But also just there's something maybe needs to change there if that's how we feel. But most of us want to get into spiritual conversations. So how can we start spiritual conversations? Well, I got a few things to share with us today after thinking this through and after, many years of experience of trying to share my faith. There are a few key things I think that we need to focus on in order to have meaningful and excellent conversations. Let me also just start by saying that, look, there are people out there who just don't want to have any level of spiritual conversation. Anything at all that refers to the Bible, Jesus, God, reality, meaning of life, the wall goes up and there's no way through. That's just the way it is. It's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of the person. However, for most people that we have conversations with, whether we're on a plane, on traveling in the bus or on the tube, on the train, sitting at home, Christmas dinners coming up soon. Who knows? Any number of scenarios. How do we start spiritual conversations? Well, the first thing I want to say today, and some of this stuff will sound really simple, really obvious, is we need to take an interest in the person that we're talking to. Really obvious, right? Well, what I mean is we're person driven, not agenda driven. So, yes, we've got an agenda. We want to talk about God. We want to help this person in the most meaningful way, but we want to take an interest in them. It's not all about our agenda. We want to be person driven. We want to find out about them. We want to take an interest in the person. We want to be a good listener. We want to ask them questions about them, which we'll talk about more now. So, we're person driven, not agenda driven. We take an interest in the person, the first really obvious thing. The second thing to say, and I think this is one to think about a bit more, is be real. My daughter's doing these be reals at the moment. I haven't taken to doing these photographs, but be real. In other words, be honest. I think as Christians, we often refrain from sharing things in our lives that we might share with others at church because of how it might sound. So sometimes we opt out of saying things about our faith, about reading the Bible, about what we're doing at the weekend. We choose to say all this stuff that maybe sounds more normal and doesn't sound very spiritual. So I think sometimes just being real, being honest, is the better way, rather than deliberately choosing not to say things that might make you sound a certain way. That'll take wisdom, but again, often just being real, being honest. The third thing to say then is have something that will further spread the conversation. So there should be something when you sit down to talk with someone, getting to know someone, have a specific thing in your mind that you will share that could foster spiritual conversation. So for me, at the minute, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? I lead the church. I'm a minister, a pastor of a church. I have my YouTube channel. I'm called That Bible Guy, or something along them lines. Obviously, that's going to be, are you interested in faith, the Bible, why you believe, Christianity? That's going to help the conversation. But previously, when I wasn't leading the church, I would have had specific things like, in the past, what my main passion was, which was apologetics. Or my main passion was studying the Bible with people. Or how did I meet my wife? Again, that's a specific question, of course, which again was through church. I had specific situations in a conversation where I could say something that I knew was driven by a spiritual desire in me that could plug an interest in someone else. So have a specific thing in your life, which is natural, of course, some passion you have helping the poor, singing in church, or something that you do that occupies a lot of your time and your interest that you can naturally share, which when you throw it out there, probably should foster questions about what that involves. Certainly for the seeker, it will anyway. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is asking about shared conversations. Questions of reality, questions about the origins of the universe, about the origins of sin, deep and meaningful questions, existential questions that we would commonly share about history, about politics, where your view will inevitably come from a Christian perspective, but asking about shared questions. And a bit troublesome potentially with politics and so on, but shared questions around, previously I had questions with people about, coronavirus vaccinations, and I would throw in that I don't have what some Christians have as a certain viewpoint, and that maybe fostered conversations around Christianity. So shared questions. The next one then, second last one, is meaningful questions. What I mean by that, meaningful questions towards the person. What are their hopes and their dreams? What are they hoping to do in their life? What makes them happy? How do they use their spare time? What drives them in life? What motivates them? What gets them up in the morning? How do they manage to be so successful? How do they manage to be so consistent? How come they're so good in this area or that area? What is it about that person that drives and inspires them? So meaningful questions. Again, a bit similar to the first one because you're just taking an interest in someone. What is it that gets you going and drives you in life? And the last one I would say then, I'll recap these in a moment, is just, and this is what people love to be asked about, their opinion on a topic. You can have a question in there, maybe you've already had a bit of a conversation, and you'll just ask their opinion on some particular thing. What do you think about, someone's beliefs and bringing it into politics? What do you think about decisions made on, teaching religious education in schools? What's your opinion on, any number of different areas that we can ask about, maybe controversial issues of the day. You could ask questions about abortion, provided that you're able to have a diplomatic conversation. Remember 1 Peter 3:15, we need to be able to answer with gentleness and respect, regardless of the situation, but asking their opinion. You're not throwing yours out right now. You're asking their opinion on something that that will, even if you disagree on it, lead to conversations about faith, about Jesus, about hope, what he came to bring, your beliefs, how your beliefs changed, and maybe you can put bits of your testimony in there. So see things today. The first thing is remembering not everyone's going to respond no matter what you say. Second thing is taking an interest in the person. Person-driven, not necessarily agenda-driven, although we have an agenda, of course, to help and love that person. Be real, be honest about what things you're actually doing, the Christian things in your life. Have something specific in all conversations that could foster more spiritual conversation. Shared questions about reality, about life, that everyone has a view on. Meaningful questions about the person, things that will interest them and inspire them. And the last one, have a question then that just draws out their opinion on something in particular. If you like this today, please hit the like button. Please share it on for other people to benefit from this. Please subscribe if you haven't already to That Bible Guy. Let's get his word out there.